Welcome back to AM Agenda and our panel, Maxine McHugh and Mitch Fifield. Mitch, I want to ask you about the health debate. The Prime Minister was in Broken Hill yesterday. He's in Melbourne today. He is very much focused, as you'd imagine, on what is seen widely as a strength for Labor, that is the health policy. When will Tony Abbott have this alternative out? Surely he needs to get it out soon, doesn't he?
Well, I could perhaps quote Kevin Rudd before the last election when he was often asked this question about particular policy areas when they'd be released and say in due season. We've got a responsibility as an opposition to critique, question and probe the government's plan, and that questioning, probing and critiquing will assist us in the preparation of our own detailed policy. But it's not as though we haven't put out there a direction already. We've indicated that we think, particularly in Queensland and New South Wales, it's important to have local boards to bring accountability to the local level so people know where responsibility lies.
But how long can you afford to leave the ground vacant, Mitch? Because the Prime Minister's, it's fodder for him at the moment.
Well, we're not leaving the ground vacant. We're asking relevant questions. And Kieran, look at the government's plan. When all is said and done, when you put all of the Prime Minister's huffing and puffing aside, what we're talking about here, under the government's plan, is the same money coming from the same taxpayers going to the same hospitals. The essential difference is an accounting change, that 60% of the funds will go through the Commonwealth's books. That's what we're really talking about here. We're not talking about new doctors, we're not talking about new nurses, we're not talking about any better health outcomes or patient outcomes. What this government is talking about is essentially an accounting change, pulling back some of the money from the states, from the GST revenues, and having that money go through the Commonwealth post box rather than the state post box. It's the same money, the same amount from the same taxpayers going to the same hospitals.
Maxine McHugh, I'll let you respond to that, but I also want to ask you about the month ahead. It's a crucial few weeks, 3 or so weeks before the April 19 COAG, isn't it? What's the mood like in the government? Are you confident of getting the states on board? Because the noises out of some of the states aren't good.
If I could just respond to Mitch first. Mitch, you're just wrong there. And quite frankly, as soon as Tony Abbott, rehydrates and gets out of the lycra, I think it would be a really good idea
another cheap shot,
well,
Maxine.
if he accepts the briefing that Health Minister Nicola Roxon is offering him on what the government's plan is, and indeed on the recommendations of the Bennett inquiry. Now, it's interesting, Isabel Redmond, the Liberal leader in the recent South Australian elections, she took up the opportunity to have one of those briefings. I also note that the Liberal leader in New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell, said late last week in the debate with Premier Christina Keneally that he broadly accepts what the Prime Minister is putting out there, that the Commonwealth should take on the dominant funding role for our public hospitals and indeed for other areas like primary care and preventive care. Now, here we have other Liberal leaders around the country responding to what the Prime Minister said. Why? Because they realise this is one of the most critical areas of public policy for Australia to get right. So I think it would be a really good idea if Tony accepts that briefing.
OK, Maxine, what about the mood in the government ranks, though, of winning the states on board? Because you're quoting from some of them, but not all of them are positive. Troy Buswell, the Treasurer in WA, certainly very negative.
That's true, that's true. Now, Wayne Swan, as you say, had that meeting with the Treasurers last week. Now, Kieran, I see it in this context. It is unsurprising that there are still a lot of questions that are being asked about this and a lot of concerns. After all, this is the biggest change to the health system since the introduction of Medicare in the 1970s. It is a very substantial change.
So stop bagging those who are asking questions.
Stop
bagging those who are asking questions,
Well, who's doing that? Mitch, who is doing that? The fact is, Tony had...
Your ads on TV, you are, Kevin Rudd is, Nicola Roxon is.
Mitch,
you say you want to have a constructive dialogue, but all you do is relentlessly bag any Premier, any federal opposition leader who pose legitimate questions.
Mitch, that is not the case.
Answer the questions. We'll pull the attack ads on TV, Maxine.
Mitch?
Pull the attack ads.
Could you let me have a word? Thank you. Mitch,
I thought I might have something to say as well.
Okay. Mitch, there was a 1-hour debate last week And Tony Abbott had a lot of time to put direct questions to the Prime Minister. Now, he didn't do that. He sneered his way through that debate. He swaggered
You've been sneering at Tony wearing lycra and saying he needs to rehydrate,
and
Maxine.
At one point,
I mean, Maxine, we're not going to cop this. Labor can sneer. Labor can run attack ads against Tony Abbott. Labor can sneer at him, as he did before, saying that, once he gets out of the lycra and rehydrates, it's okay for Labor to sneer. It's okay for Labor to abuse. We're not sneering. We're not abusing. We're asking legitimate questions on public policy, and it's about time the government started answering them rather than attacking anyone with a legitimate question.
Mitch,
Maxine, a quick response.
Well, I will make this point if I can. When the Prime Minister offered the hand of constructive partnership to Tony Abbott last week, he simply
running attack ads.
He simply
the attack ads
were
running
back.
While he was saying
Mitch, just give Maxine a moment.
Thank you very much. Tony Abbott simply threw his head back and laughed uproariously. And I can tell you, as I said on this program last week, it didn't go down well with clinicians at the Royal North Shore. It didn't go down well with some of the health professionals I was talking to on the weekend. What they want to see is a constructive dialogue. That is what the Prime Minister is offering with the premiers and indeed with the Leader of the Opposition. So let's get on with it.
Well, you've both had your say on that. One final issue to finish. Barack Obama, a surprise visit to Afghanistan, his first as the President overnight. Let's hear a bit of what he had to say to the US troops there.
Well, we know there are going to be some difficult days ahead. There's going to be setbacks. We face a determined enemy. But we also know this. The United States of America does not quit once it starts on something. You don't quit. The American Armed Services does not quit. We keep at it. We persevere. And together with our partners, we will prevail. I am absolutely confident of that.
Maxine, we saw 3 Australians wounded in 2 separate blasts at the weekend. The US casualties on the rise as well. Are we entering a new another new dangerous phase in Afghanistan? Well,
let's hope not. I mean, the Australians wounded on the weekend, that was in Orizon province, and I'm told their condition is not serious, but it does highlight, doesn't it, the incredibly difficult and challenging mission that this is. Interesting, of course, that the President is there, and of course President Obama wants what we all want, and that is for the Afghans to take control of their own security. But you're right, he must go there absolutely conscious of the high price in American blood. And there are 2 challenges: the military challenge, defeating the Taliban, and of course the political challenge, the extent to which President Karzai can unite his country. So it is a critical point, but it's the President's message is well taken.
Okay, Mitch Fifield, just quickly, we're almost out of time. Your thoughts?
Look, it's a good thing that President Obama has gone to visit the troops in Afghanistan. It's important for the troops to see that there's commitment from their government, and it's important that the message is sent out that the US is determined and purposeful. I just make the observation that it's interesting, no matter how any US president before they take office says that they're going to focus on domestic politics, invariably they spend a lot of their time focusing on international affairs, and that's a good thing because we need the US to be a great moral leader in the world.
Senator Fifield, Maxine McHugh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks.
That's all we've got time for. Thank you for your company as well.